Darkcast Network, indie pods with a dark side.
Welcome back to Creepy Confidential. I'm your host, Noelle, your resident weirdo Wisconsinite. I open case files on my favorite cryptids, cults, conspiracies, and other worldly creepy. Bringing you new cases, live broadcasts, local lore, and in Season 2, we bring you the Cult of the Month. So get ready, creeps. It's Season 2 of Creepy Confidential. What's up, creeps? Welcome back, creeps. Sup Creeps? Did you check out that sweet Darkcast Network clip at the beginning? That's right, Creepy Confidential has joined the Darkcast Network. Welcome, creeps, to Ghost Hunting 101. Sup Creeps? This is it, folks. The aliens are coming. We're being warned. The sirens are going off. It's time. Everybody get to your bunkers. If you have food, family, pets, now's your time, run. They're coming for us. A metallic-smelling mist surrounds them with a sulfur odor. Others in the party would later describe a hissing sound coming from the large object protruding from the ground. 15 feet away, towering over their head, was a vast shape. The face is round and blood red. No nose or mouth, only the eyes from which project a greenish-orange beam of light. The beams of light pierced through the haze of the night surrounding the scene. Around the red face was a large hood that pointed upward, resembling the ace of spades. And with this single interaction began the legend of what has become the Flatwoods monster. This week on the Cryptid Creep Show, we're talking about the Flatwoods monster. A lot of people don't think that what we see is the monster, but rather it is an alien that's inside of this suit. If you guys have been listening, you know I love collecting the rare books from these subjects. Things that you can't just go and buy, or if you can, they're republications of old books. So I found, when I was actually diving into the Mothman subject, I discovered the Flatwoods monster, because when you're down there in that West Virginia area, you run into pictures and people dressing like it and everything, by Gray Barker. And the title is They Knew Too Much About Flying Saucers, the true story of what happened to certain researchers and investigators who found out where the saucers come from. Due to the information in the Cult of the Month episodes, we will start with a disclaimer. Warning, this episode is intended for mature audiences. It contains graphic descriptions of crime scenes, abuse, profanity, and cult behavior. Listener discretion is advised. Michael Lamboy walks into the Salida Police Department and tells the authorities that in his home they will find an enshrined, mummified corpse. A twinkling, multicolored makeshift shrine can be seen from down the hallway. They come to a room decorated similar to a child's bedroom. Rainbows, hearts, and stars adorn the walls, and a few stuffed bunny toys are perched on the mantel, standing vigil. A sleeping bag rests on the bed, draped in small, multicolored Christmas lights. A female face is only slightly exposed, and the skin is slightly blue in color. Above her head are small, flower-shaped lights that adorn and illuminate her crown. The eyes appear to be missing at first glance. Upon further investigation, the eyes are present and dehydrated due to the ongoing decomposition process. The empty sockets appear to have been dusted with glitter makeup. Her dehydrated lips have receded, exposing her teeth. The state of the corpse suggests that she has been deceased for several weeks and laid in state in the middle of this makeshift shrine. A shrine built to honor their leader. A leader they knew as Mother God. And now their Mother God had ascended. a divine 19 billion-year-old being who to them had birthed all of creation, proclaiming to have been reincarnated 534 times, including as Jesus Christ. Warning: today's episode includes descriptions of death, voodoo practices, and a Wisconsinite butchering the French language. Listener discretion is advised. May 2nd, 1:15 p.m. He is pronounced dead by 2 physicians. His sister, Angelina, is present at bedside at the passing and notifies the family. Mr. Narcisse is laid to rest in a small cemetery north of his village. 18 years following the passing of her brother, Angelina Narcisse is shopping at the El Ester marketplace when she is approached by a man. He introduces himself by a nickname that startles her. It's a name only close family would know, and hasn't been spoken since she and her siblings were children. The man is claiming to be her brother, Clairvius Narcisse. Welcome to the curious case of Clairvius Narcisse, aka the living zombie. If you have an Alexa, aka the government monitoring device, just say, "Alexa, play the podcast Creepy Confidential," and there we will be. Tattered skin, missing limbs, lifeless stare, just decomposing right before our eyes. Sometimes they're chomping, sometimes they're clicking their jaws. I'm built for strength, not speed, baby. I'm strong as an ox, but slow as a sloth. Today we are discussing one of the most famous cases of the living zombie and the Bokors that practice this illegal process, beaten, bound, and led away by a team of men that, according to him, also stole his soul. For 2 years, he was under the spell of a Bokor, or a zombie master, and made to work on the sugar fields as a slave. Clairvius would wander for 16 years, claiming his fear of his vengeful brother is what kept him away, and only following his brother's death did he feel he could return. He claimed to be made a zombie by his brother because of a land dispute. Warning: the following episode contains descriptions of cult behavior, unwanted touching, and rape. Listener discretion is advised.
Ben Hayen created universal medicine in 1999 after receiving what he calls an awakening, a light bulb moment that occurred while sitting on the toilet.
I just gave myself a time to sit and feel that moment, and I could feel something really, really beautiful.
This month, we're going to be discussing a cult called Universal Medicine, also known as UniMed, from New South Wales, Australia. Quote, Universal Medicine is committed to providing complementary health and healing services that are universal in their approach towards medicine and healing. But all of a sudden, we take a hard right. The signature treatments practiced and taught by Universal Medicine are, oh boy, here it comes, quote, esoteric breast massage, esoteric healing, ovarian readings, chakra puncture, esoteric connective tissue therapy, and esoteric ovary massage. Sitting on the can and having an aha moment like this one, no, it couldn't possibly be foreshadowing for how great this idea could be. Oy. So let's see. What else did he learn while he was dropping the kids off at the pool? And apparently their word on this is that we have anal energy snakes that this man was allegedly trying to remove. They also believe that there is a master race of aliens that are 9 feet tall, have no feet, and that are out among us smelling out the higher level humans. October 20th, 1967. Roger Patterson and Robert Givlin are shooting B-reel footage in Northern California's Six Rivers National Forest next to Bluff Creek. The duo are on horseback riding through the fall forest with some camping gear, food, and a rented 16mm video camera. They are there to attempt to capture real footage of a Bigfoot. During the summer of 1967, there are accounts that Roger had started filming a docudrama about a group of cowboys being led by an old miner and a wise Indian tracker in search of Bigfoot. As they descend into the bluff from the trail, the horses start to balk and buck in alarm. Suddenly emerging from the shadows is a towering dark figure that defies explanation. It is massive, covered in coarse, dark hair, and its features are undeniably primate-like. It saunters across the dried riverbed, walking in a direct path out into the open sun. They notice the creature appears to have large breasts. Displaying to them this large creature must be female. Is this creature the one they are looking for? Their hearts pound as Patterson fumbles for his camera, praying that it will capture the astonishing sight before them. He calls out quietly to his friend Bob to cover him with his rifle while he tries to ready the camera. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, Patterson manages to steady his trembling hands and begins to roll footage on the sight before them. The small camera comes to life. The creature, seemingly unafraid of their presence, continues its steady walk through the trees across the dried-up sandbar of Bluff Creek. Its musculature shifts beneath its fur, and it crosses the clearing. Then, it disappears into the forest once again. This little 16mm film camera would capture approximately 59 seconds of footage of this 7-foot-tall, approximately 350-pound female creature. She would be given the name Patty and would become the holy grail of evidence for Bigfoot trackers over the years. The footage would also be the target of many calling it a hoax. Today's episode, we're going to talk about the Loveland Frog. Library goers out there, I myself was that kid who mom could park in the library. She could go look for her books, come back, and I would still be buried in the books. Only now I'd have like 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 books around me, and I was looking at everything from aliens to Bigfoot to cats, and I loved reading about a subject, and once I got started, I just couldn't help it. So that's what we're doing today. I have books and papers all around me in my creepy confidential library. I found myself gathering the last couple pieces here, and I felt like that meme of I think it's Charlie, and he's standing in front of the conspiracy wall from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and he's got like a smoke in his mouth, his eyes are all red, and he's trying to explain where all the red tape goes. That's where my research has led over the last few months. And then the culmination of trying to get it all into one place has really been an adventure. Here we start down the rabbit hole, folks. Hold on. In Southwest Ohio, the creature is also sometimes referred to as the Frogman of the Little Miami River. And that's in quotes. The Loveland Frog in this little painting, he has cakes. We'll just leave it at that. I was like, wow, all right, homeboy does squats. A weary, anonymous businessman saw 3 bipedal frogs standing on the side of the road after midnight, waving a sparking wand. The man claimed that they had leathered, bumpy skin and smelled like almonds. Police officer Ray Shockey was driving towards Loveland, Ohio, 1 a.m., March 3, 1972, when he saw a strange creature standing 3 to 4 feet tall, weighing roughly 60 pounds. Now, what I want to know, cameras existed in 1972. I know that they did. Why on God's green earth? If this was meant to be the story of a century, did somebody not take a picture?
June 17th, 1926, Green Lake Park, Seattle, Washington. A local carpenter is walking on the north end of the park on his way to work when he came across a pair of women's shoes. These shoes were near a small grove of alder trees at the edge of the water. Confused, he proceeds a little further to the shore, only to discover a nearly naked woman. The Gaines murder case became one of the most sensational in Seattle's history, with everyone asking, but who would do such a thing? The murderer was not some random fiend or foreign foe, but a local man, someone she trusted, and even rumored to have potentially welcomed into her bed. Wallace Cloyce Gaines, her father. To this day, Encounters of a female spirit wandering around the lake have been reported. Many of the locals attribute these sightings to the restless soul of Sylvia Gaines. Today we are talking about the true crime case and haunting of Sylvia Gaines, aka the Gaines Point murder, and also the paranormal label of the Green Lake Ghost. Now, this case rocked the city of Seattle in 1926. What's crazy is, as if a young woman being found naked and slain by a public lake wasn't bad enough, the inner workings of this story are so dark and twisted, and they ultimately may be why the event literally still haunts the Green Lake Park in an area now known as Gaines Point. Broken family, incest, drunken confessions, and a witness putting the perpetrator there at the exact time and place. This voice popped up on this investigation was a full transatlantic accent from a man's voice, and it was potentially reenacting the murder. As a purveyor of genuine information regarding psychic phenomena, I welcome this resurgence of curiosity in worlds beyond the physical, because contemplating these matters tends to make people think about themselves, their ultimate fate, and the nature of humankind itself. Author and parapsychologist Hans Holzer. Hope you brought your notebook and your favorite number 2 pencil. Welcome to Ghost Hunting 101, Intro to Paranormal Investigating. Class, you say? That's right, creeps. This mini podcast, also Class, will introduce you to the wonderful world of the paranormal and hopefully encourage you to search for answers of the unknown for yourself. Today's introduction topics are going to include terminology of the trade, types of hauntings, evidence and the difference between EVP and DVP. So everyone has a different reason for getting into ghost hunting. Sometimes you have your own paranormal experience. Sometimes you are just curious. There really is kind of always a reason that makes somebody get into it. You guys will hear Ghostbuster references so many times because by far it is when they talk about what things that made you want to be a ghost hunter, that movie really inspired me. In the opener of the movie, they're going to the library. And when they're down in the basement, they come around the corner and they see a woman, right? And she has a purple hue floating around. That's an apparition. So a good reference here is Helen Duncan, if you know who that is. She was a woman who would conduct seances and create a ectoplasm, I'll use air quotes on that, produced from her body. Now, another reference that I like to discuss again is from the same movie. So they're in the library, right? And then after the apparition appears, kind of in the beginning, the dudes are going in and they're going to investigate kind of the damage and see, maybe use some of their scientific pieces of equipment. Now, all along the drawers, like the little codex cards and things, they're thrown everywhere, but the drawers themselves have this viscous fluid dripping from it. And this is ectoplasm in the ghost world. We made it. Creepy Confidential turned 1 year old. Happy birthday to you. That's right, folks. Oh, all babies all grows up.
Little babies all grows up. You know what? Shut up. Come on. No. Our little babies all grows up.
Today we talk about fashion. Not just any fashion, but the fashion of the dead. A man was waiting for his turn to be cremated. The operator was doing the final checks to ensure everything was correct and that everything was with him. He was dressed super snazzy. Think Chicago mobster level snazzy. Full sharp suit, crisp shirt, pocket square, colorfully matching the rest of his suit, playing cards, a little cigar, and a little baby bottle of bourbon that was to be poured into a little paper cup in his hand just before his cremation journey was to start. Personalized. That guy had a plan, and someone he knew to trust with that plan. Let's travel back in time for a bit, when death was a man that lived more closely to your everyday life. A cough, cold, or childbirth could mean a death sentence. Can you imagine sitting in that sewing circle? Mary, that gown is simply perfect.
The details you are adding are dainty and divine. So have you thought about how great you're going to look at your funeral? I would personally rather be rocking some fantastic garb at my last fleshy moments here on Earth, rather than someone putting me in some extremely Martha Stewart conservative outfit that I clearly would never have worn in life. No offense, Martha, you're a gangster, and I know that. But let's just say our styles do differ a little.
Today, Creepy Confidential is welcoming Brenda of Horrifying History. Brenda and I are joining forces during this Creeptober season to bring you the tale of two corpse brides. So I'd like you to give a creepy hand for the wonderful, fabulous Brenda of Horrifying History. Take it away, Brenda.
My name is Brenda, and I'm the creator and host of the podcast Horrifying History. Today, I want to tell you a little story about a bridal store in Mexico. For many, going shopping for a wedding dress is a very exciting time. It's here that many brides start to feel like their special day is almost here. But in one bridal shop in Chihuahua, Mexico, brides get an extra special bonus: a dead body. The idea of a corpse bride or groom is actually way more common than you all think. After all, filmmaker Tim Burton banked on that when he made the 2005 animated film Corpse Bride. Did you all know that this movie is based on a Jewish folktale from the 16th century? In the original version of the story, Rabbi Luria, for some strange reason, was joking around with a wedding ring and marriage vows in a forest. He decided to place the wedding ring on a tree branch when all of a sudden he discovers the branch was the corpse of a dead woman who rose from her grave. But as we mentioned before, there is a bridal shop in Mexico that really hopes that their window display doesn't do the same thing. The thing is, my spooky friends, embalmed bodies are not unheard of as some sort of weird tourist attraction. Is it a very realistic looking mannequin, or is it a body that's being used like one?
So let's talk about Carl Tanzler. What a crazy ride of a story this one is. Marina Elena Milagro de Hoyos, more commonly referred to as Elena. She was a devout Catholic and loved Rudolph Valentino. Tuberculosis was just nasty and rampant. The Tsar of Russia gave him watches. If the Tsar of Russia is giving you watches, why are you a radiologist in some small marine hospital? That initially made no sense to me. So Carl had been plagued, apparently, by visions of a beautiful, dark-haired woman who was destined to be the love of his life. But October 25th, 1931, there was no more that Carl could do. She died at the age of 21. So he places Elena's corpse, decaying corpse, in a toy wagon and transported it to the makeshift lab, and then using plaster of Paris, wires, mortician wax, and glass eyes, Tanzler brought Elena, quote, back to life, and proceeded to take her to his home, where the pair shared a marital bed. Following all this shenanigans, the coroners, when Elena was then taken away, had discovered that among all of the kind of multiple body parts that he had reconstructed, he had inserted a paper tube inside of her to serve as a makeshift vagina.
What's up, creeps? Welcome to our debut of Creepy Confidential After Dark. This is where we go off script, no rules. We talk about whatever we want, and we have a little fun. So grab a beverage and join us here as we introduce our first guests. I'm very excited. The lovely gents from What Goes Bump in the Night. Trevor Jensen and Riley Clark. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And I loved the campfire series. I loved how it started with the crackling, and then you literally, the story about you getting tied up in a chair Trevor,
that was the one.
I wanted to beat them up, and I'd never talked to you, known you, whatever, and I felt violent urges towards these people. It was awful. Tell me about the story. Like, they get more into it.
Intrigued.
Yeah, I'm so intrigued.
And for some reason, when I like throw on some voice acting, I read better.
Yeah.
It's like, what's getting broke?
Many of our episodes where we're recording and then Buttons is just like in the mic, just
But speaking of possessed houses, so last time we met, I was telling the story about the first time that I had something paranormal happen to me.
Yep.
And I find it funny that the story was just going normal. And as soon as I finished telling it, you had something fall off the wall right behind you that had not fallen before.
I can show the audience.
Still has
too.
not fallen again.
Maybe.
Or do you think that they're not related?
I think whatever we experienced that night at the Indian burial ground was what was in my dream. Some terrible things happened on this land potentially.
Right.
So who really knows like what really could be there?
They have a powder room, and then they have the water closet that's in there. Well, when you walk in, I remember I walked in and I thought there's a full-on cloud in the middle of the room.
It's like having a spank bank.
I was
keep that in the side.
For paranormal investigators. That's what it is. You're like, oh baby, let's get something.
Here we go.
Here we go.
I call it paracurious.
Paracurious.
Yeah.
It's like
that
they just
sounds kind of naughty. Yeah.
They just dabble.
I'm kind of like paracurious. So for those folks just tuning in, we've been gib-gabbing for 13 minutes. Side note, we have reminisced. Thanks that she's here for my mental health journey.
Yeah.
I've even played an intro. And you know what? I was so excited to talk about this. I just skipped right on past it.
Go ahead, play the intro. We'll start over. No big deal. Always up for talking to you some more. Always.
Wow, it's like we jumped right back in. Truly unscripted, no rules. Here we are, BSing, just reminiscing with no one here. So, Creeps, now that we've come to terms that we haven't been live this whole entire time, Creeps, this is Miss Heidi McVeigh. She is a great a paranormal romance author, also a this is just cracking me up. Paranormal enthusiast. So there we were. We're talking about an EVP.
Picture it, Sicily, 2005.
2005. Fresh out of the United States Navy. We thought somebody was in the back seat.
Yeah. I actually was just about to say that. It felt like someone was sitting in the middle of the back seat. Kind of like leaning forward to like scope things out.
Because we had gotten, I think I did this, and because we had went someplace else, gotten in the car. I'm sure we didn't check the back seat, and my instinct was like, never did. And the instinct, like, I remember turning, and I remember looking at you, and then you said, "It feels like there's someone in the back seat."
There's no way to tell if this is just the obscuring on the lens. No way to tell that.
Join me today as I take you on a journey of one of the most famous and sometimes feared cryptids of the world, Mothman. The two couples are driving along next to the North Power Plant when all of a sudden they notice two bright, glowing red eyes that reflect in the car's headlights. It was then that they noticed these glowing red orbs belonged to a creature. A tall, winged, man-like humanoid creature appears to be moving around the side of the building. Roger accelerates around the bend. They all look up just in time to see the winged creature by a large billboard as it spreads its wings and takes off straight into the air. Completely terrified, they are all screaming at each other, "Faster, faster!" As they see the creature come into focus, swooping and swaying through the back window behind the roaring Chevy as they accelerate down the dirt road. They accelerate to speeds of over 100 miles per hour, and they could not outrun it. They drove back into town and gave their story to the local sheriff. At first, the sheriff didn't believe them, but he knew that they weren't troublemakers. He took their story down, and then they all went back out to the TNT area together. The story goes that while they found no Mothman, the sheriff did hear odd sounds and strange static disturbances coming from his police radio. The witnesses said they saw circling shadows and a cloud of dust kick up in the adjacent coal yard. Too scared to go home, they all stayed in Scarberry's trailer that night. Lights on, and no sleep was had by not a single person in the party. The next day, the sheriff held a press conference, and the paper started to print their stories. 2 local newspapers published the first major headlines. The first headline read, "Couple see man-sized bird, creature, something." While another local headline read, "Winged, red-eyed thing chases point couples across countryside." The publication would become the start of one of West Virginia's most well-known cryptids. In fact, one of the most recognizable cryptids of the United States, Mothman.